Lottery tickets. Is this your chance to get rich, make a bunch of money, retire, go off into the sunset, and live a life of luxury? Should you gamble on lottery tickets? And if you do, should you be buying Bitcoin? Or maybe even a better question, is Bitcoin your lottery ticket to get rich? I would say it is. I think it's a much better chance than the lottery ticket. In fact, in this video, I'm going to talk about how foregoing lottery tickets could help you make millions of dollars in Bitcoin. Specifically, $7 million is the super big number we're going to be talking about in this video. We're going to compare the risks and the rewards between lottery tickets and Bitcoin and use probability and use possibilities to determine which is the better investment for you, because everything in life is a bet. So, lottery tickets. A lot of you watching probably don't buy lottery tickets. Some of you do. And so my encouragement for you all that don't buy lottery tickets in this video, of course, is going to be for you to continue not buying and to convince those in your life instead of lottery tickets to buy Bitcoin, right? Hopefully at the end of this video, you're going to be able to share this with somebody in your life that's buying lottery tickets trying to get rich. And hopefully this video is going to hopefully extend their time horizon and give them a different perspective to realize that Bitcoin is their lottery ticket. So without a further ado, let's talk about where on earth do lottery tickets come from? Well, really, they are a fiat phenomenon. Really, they're pretty new. Lotteries have always existed, right? Hundreds of years ago, lotteries existed. However, here in the United States, lotteries are something relatively of a recent phenomenon, right? If we look at this chart here on the right, we are looking at total cumulative ticket sales in this lighter red pinkish hue here, all the way back from 1975. Now, if you have been learning about monetary history for a while, you will know that in 1971, the United States of America went off a gold standard and onto a political currency fiat standard. And I would argue that that was one of the main catalysts for which why people decided to begin gambling and speculating in lottery tickets is because it's a short-term, in my opinion, degenerate mindset, trying to get rich quick for no actual effort of their own, right? Trying to get rich quick, right? When the currency itself is deteriorating, when cash itself is continuing to lose value, what do? People become nihilistic. People become depressed. People will decide, hey, the future's bleak anyway. I might as well gamble and maybe I got a moonshot of retiring, right? I think this is very much a fiat phenomena. In the same way, we could look at 100 different aspects of society, in particular American society, and see that kind of trend happening. So let's get some specific numbers here, right? Not just a chart visual. $100 billion of lottery tickets. And every year here in America, holy cow, that was more than I thought it was going to be. $100 billion is converted from political currency units to political gambling units. Oh my goodness. That's $315 per person, per American citizen annually. That's insane. Now, obviously, some people that are way on the spectrum are spending way more than $300 a year, which is also terrifying to think about. So obviously that average is skewed upwards because the outliers move the average a great bit. However, that is $27 billion of lottery tickets that is going straight to the government. That's amazing. As I was doing research for this video, that was way more than I thought it would be, right? I mean, literally, whenever you're buying lottery tickets, think of it like a tax, okay? Basically, a third of whatever you're spending on a lottery ticket is going straight to the government, right? Now, me personally, I don't know about you. I'm an American, but I don't really like taxes. I just don't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're different from me. So every chance I get to not spend more money and give it to the government, I generally take that. So, it's amazing how people will willingly go with the familiar tax of a lottery ticket and forego and try to avoid the unfamiliar tax, right? Basically, the average person is spending $300 a year on these lottery tickets. And so about $100 worth of that is straight extra tax to the government. So it's approximately $100 per American citizen that is going straight to the government as a completely voluntary tax. That's amazing. That's a massive, massive amount. Obviously, in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing compared to all other kinds of tax revenue. However, it's still a lot more than I thought would be. And it's quite depressing, actually, that people are so willing to fund the government in that sense. So let's go to the next slide here. This is what I was talking about a moment ago, familiar versus unfamiliar risk, right? If you see a spider, you say, oh my goodness, it's a spider, it's going to eat me, right? When we see a spider, we freak out. When we text and drive, we accept that, right? And this is because human brains are very bad at perceiving risk. We're awful. We're so bad at this, right? And the same thing is true with the lottery, right? We are terrified of the things outside of our control, and we are not terrified of the things inside of our control that we should be terrified about, right? Like, yes, I know spiders, biologically, we're hardwired to be afraid of spiders or mice or ticks or whatever, and they're gross and disgusting, and we squeal whenever we see them. But, the reality is that in this modern world, our brains are not hardwired to understand the danger of getting in a metal box and careening 80 miles per hour down a lane with other metal boxes also careening at that speed when you're looking down at your phone anywhere between 1 to 4 seconds, right? It's like our brains are not wired for that, right? And likewise, our brains are not wired to comprehend the risk that is involved with buying a lottery ticket, right? So this is my big encouragement. If you take nothing else from this video, whether you do buy lottery tickets or you don't, whether you are into Bitcoin or you're not, the point is begin to think about risks in different kinds of metrics, right? This is one of my favorite examples. You get more radiation from cigarettes than in Chernobyl, okay? It is worse for you to smoke cigarettes daily than to visit Chernobyl daily. Okay, think about that. That's not including the tar. That's not including all the other cancers and health, downsides of cigarettes just from the ionizing radiation alone in a cigarette. Okay, we have these, we have a whole docu-series about, oh, Chernobyl, this big scary thing, nuclear energy. But the reality is that we are so bad at determining risk, we are willing to voluntarily take the risk of a cigarette that we know is bad for us. But it's not until you zoom out and realize, oh my goodness, it's actually so much worse than this other thing, right? If we were comparing, right? It's worse to smoke cigarettes every day than to visit Chernobyl every day. This is true in life as well, right? Many people, especially in my demographic, are terrified of having kids. Oh, kids are expensive. They take away your freedom. They do all these things, right? We're terrified of bringing in another little tiny human into our lives. It's, outside of our own control, outside of our own sphere, right? And we don't, that's terrifying to us because it's the unfamiliar thing. It's the risk we have not yet experienced yet. We have never experienced a risk like that, right? Myself, I don't have kids, so I have never experienced a lot of the risks or, let's say, downsides of raising a kid, right? But if we're thinking critically here, everything in life has risk. Nothing is free. And there is a major risk if you don't have a family of your own, whether that's kids, spouse, whoever. There is a large amount of familiar risk, right? We are very bad as human beings quantifying this. And I think fiat money, especially since post-1971, magnifies this kind of poor logic and thinking. I think it magnifies these kinds of things. The birth rate has been collapsing. And this is the ultimate scenario of this, I think, right? We have the familiar risk, which is the Federal Reserve political currency units, where you could be censored. You almost certainly will be debased at 2 to 4% a year. You always could be debased in a hyperinflationary scenario, right? You could say something wrong. You could do something wrong. You could visit the wrong place, right? You have all kinds of familiar risks people willingly take on when they go to a traditional bank. But yet, because Bitcoin's volatility is perceived as outside of our control, because Bitcoin is something that is new to us, unfamiliar to us, we are terrified of it, right? Bitcoin is the spider. Bitcoin is the child. Bitcoin is the old abandoned Chernobyl factory. The cigarettes, the regret of being alone in old age and the pain of, the banking system. These are the familiar risks, right? Again, why am I talking about this when we're also talking about lottery tickets? Because to understand why people participate in throwing away money to the government for the small, tiny, false hope of getting some kind of realistic return, people do these things because we're just bad in general with risk management, right? Including you, probably, including me. None of us, I think, are hardwired to comprehend these things intuitively. Let me give you an example when it comes to you and it comes to your Bitcoin. Most people here, I've heard the message, oh, I've heard Bitcoin, I've heard get off exchanges, I've heard self-custody, I know, I got to take self-custody. What if the government takes my Bitcoin? I know. No, actually, I don't think you do. Your biggest risk, if you have Bitcoin on an exchange, is not a government 6102 attack. Your biggest risk, if you have Bitcoin on Coinbase or Kraken or Swan or Strike or Gemini or wherever the heck you have your Bitcoins on, right? Your biggest risk is not the government taking that Bitcoin. And that might be a little controversial of a statement. Check in the comments down below how many people are yelling at me right now. But I would argue significantly, by an order of magnitude at least, your biggest risk is the risk of somebody draining your account, okay? Yes, it is totally possible the government steals everybody's Bitcoin. Personally, I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I think it very well could happen. We've done that multiple times with gold. I think there's a very real non-zero chance that many governments steal people's Bitcoin in mass. And it's entirely possible in the United States. However, the much larger risk by a factor of 10 is that somebody gets your driver's license, they get your social security number, they find your phone number, they do an SMS attack, right? They get into your exchange and they withdraw on your behalf, okay? I am yet to talk to anybody that has had their Bitcoin stolen from an exchange by the US government, right? I'm yet to talk to anybody that's had that. And I've met less than 5 people that have actually had US government officials break into their home and take Bitcoin. I have met people that have gone through that. Those are very rare extreme scenarios, right? But I have met at least 100 people that have gone through this other example, right? If you have Bitcoin on an exchange right now, you are not being foolish because you're not taking stuff. You're being foolish because you don't even understand the largest risk that you're facing. It is so easy for a malicious bad actor to get the proper information to get into your bank account or get your credit card information, right? And guess what? If you have $50,000 worth of Bitcoin on an exchange, do you realize that kind of, like, would you walk around a bad part of town with $50,000 of diamonds in your pocket? No, you wouldn't. That's stupid, right? That's stupid. Would you walk around in some foreign country that you've never been to with $2 million of unmarked cash bills in your pocket? Well, that's what you're doing when you have Bitcoin on an exchange. If you have Bitcoin on an exchange and you have access to that exchange with your phone, you're placing a massive bounty over your head, or anybody that figures out, because they've studied your YouTube history, they've studied your bank transfers, they've studied your account, right? Anybody, it's then just open season for malicious actors, right? So please, for the sake of a $5 wrench stack and for the sake of losing your Bitcoin, if you have 0.2 Bitcoin or 3 Bitcoin or 8 Bitcoin, or for goodness sakes, more than 10 Bitcoin on an exchange, for goodness sakes, this is your largest risk. It's not the risk of a government stealing your money. It's the risk of somebody who's intelligent saying, I think this guy has got between 2 to 10 Bitcoin on X exchange. Let's do everything we can to try to get that, right? That is your biggest risk, somebody withdrawing from your exchange. But yet, people are so terrified, even within Bitcoin, of the unfamiliar risk outside of our control. We are willing to overlook the risk of Bitcoin on exchanges. It's a very common conversation to have. Oh, Luke, yeah, I have my Bitcoin on exchange, but I don't feel the pressure to really get out yet because I don't think the government's going to take my money. The government wouldn't take my money off the exchange. They wouldn't do that. You don't even understand what the biggest risk is. That wasn't even your biggest risk in the first place. But you're so obsessed on the spider, you're forgetting the fact that you're texting and driving. You have an actual, real risk in front of you. So that's my encouragement. Get off the exchanges. Okay, I highly, highly encourage you to do that. So my point is, don't think you're on a high horse just because you don't trade the altcoins or you don't get into, lottery tickets and stuff. Probably all of us have some aspect of our life that is much higher risk than what we were considering. So back to lottery tickets. Okay, back to lottery tickets. You have the unfamiliar risk, the opportunity cost of lottery tickets, and you have the familiar risk, which is the actual cost of the lottery tickets. Let's go through the tangible examples here, right? Let's assume you're somebody that consistently plays the lottery. Let's assume you're going to play the lottery for the next 21 years at roughly $2 a ticket, just for the sake of an easy example. That's $50 a year if you're going to buy a ticket every other week. If you're going to buy an average of a couple tickets a week, that's a few $100s a year, right? This is apparently close to average for the average American, right? $15 a week is probably a little above average for the, moderate lottery player. And then let's say you're a degenerate and you're spending $100 a week, or about $5,000 a year on lottery tickets, right? Now, let's assume you have an odds of winning a mega jackpot, because if you're playing the lottery, that's probably what you're playing for. You want to win that mega jackpot with all the millions and millions of dollars, right? Okay. You have a 1 in roughly $250 million odds of winning, right? If you play every other week. You've got 1.5 million chance, roughly 1 in 91,000 chance if you're buying $5 worth of tickets a week, and you have a 1 in 5,000 chance of winning over the course of 21 years if you put in $5,200 a year. Now, you might be saying, oh, wow, that's actually not that bad. But it kind of makes sense. If you're buying thousands and thousands of tickets over the course of 2 decades, well, of course, you're going to improve your odds by a factor of 100. Wow, 1 in 5,000, that doesn't actually seem that bad. Well, maybe I should buy the lottery ticket. No, you shouldn't. And we'll get into here why. Why? Because you have an average loss rate of approximately 33.3%. In fact, it is ironically almost exactly a third, because statistically that's what lottery companies have found to be almost exactly the maximum amount of profit they can take while people are still willing to pay. If they go any higher than that, people aren't willing to play anymore, right? But if they go any lower than that, their profits aren't as high as they could be. So it's almost universally consistently about a third, right? Now, again, this is ignoring taxes, right? Because if you make a big win, you're going to be paying a big tax bill, and you're probably going to reinvest your gambling generously because you're addicted. So, in reality, it's probably going to be an even smaller amount of quote unquote returns you get from your gambling. But again, assuming you're going to be spending X number of dollars per week over the course of 21 years, this is how much you can expect to return from your lottery addiction. If you're spending $1 a week, you're going to probably quote unquote make $700 over the next 20 years. Assuming that you didn't reinvest it all and continue to lose it, right? Just assuming you put it in once, you get it back once consistently every week, you're going to get about $70. Obviously, if you buy $100 a week, right, 100 times the tickets, you get about 100 times as much money, approximately $72,000, which you might say, oh, wow, so lottery, gambling is great. No, it isn't, right? And everything I'm saying, by the way, is also true of casinos. Maybe you play the casino for fun, or you do sports betting for fun. All these things still apply. We're talking about a theoretical example here, just a principle. So let's go on to the other lottery ticket, the orange lottery ticket. Let's say Bitcoin. Now, the world at large says Bitcoin has less than a 10% chance of surviving, right? The anti-Bitcoin world says, oh, Bitcoin's a scam, it's a Ponzi, it's not going anywhere, nobody's going to use it, countries are adopting it too slow, it uses too much energy, blah, 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 whatever, people, right? Most people say less than 10% chance it's ever going to become the world's standard, right? Now, the Bitcoin nerds like myself say Bitcoin has an exceedingly high probability of surviving. I would say it has well over a 99% chance of surviving. I know to many of you that might seem a bit high, especially if you're new to Bitcoin. How can this guy be so confident to say it has a 99% chance of surviving? Okay, maybe you believe me, maybe you don't. So let's say you're somewhere in the middle. You're somewhere between 10% and 99%, but probably closer to 99%. That's probably why you're watching this video. So let's assume you're cautiously optimistic and that you're in the middle, by an order of magnitude to each end of the group. Let's say you think there's a 90% chance Bitcoin's going to survive, right? Yeah, okay, I like this Bitcoin thing. I'm not quite sure about it. I'm scared to buy a little bit because, there is that 10% chance it goes to literal zero, right? Maybe I'm nervous. Maybe that's you, right? Let's assume that's you, right? So we're even assuming that you don't view Bitcoin as a surefire thing, right? We're assuming you think it's pretty likely, but it's not a guarantee, right? So let's assume 90% odds of survival. Again, however, if you're already at this point where you're trying to think rationally and percentages and all that, you probably wouldn't be gambling in the first place because you're too rational for it. So let's say no more lottery tickets, no more casinos, no more gambling. We are being a Bitcoin maxi and we are saving because Bitcoin is savings. All right, let's say I save $1 per week into Bitcoin, or $5 a week, or $15 a week, or $100 a week. It's the same fiat nominal amount you're putting into Bitcoin, right? Let's say, wow, those odds look a lot better than in the lottery example, right? In the lottery example, you're facing 1 in 457,000 odds or 1 in 30,000 odds, but now you're facing 9 out of 10 odds. Hey, that's pretty good. Wow, that's pretty great. And now what are our assumed returns for Bitcoin? Well, we're going to go with Michael Saylor's model just for the sake of simplicity. And we're going to assume over the next 21 years, we're going to have a 29% compound annual growth rate. And we're going to ignore nominal return. We're just going to assume it's approximately a 30% growth rate, which I think is very realistic because Bitcoin has a historical rate, many years ago, over 100%, CAGR. Then it had a 50 to 60% CAGR. And let's say it trends down to that, mid to high 20s CAGR over the next decade or so, right? That's probably totally realistic, especially when we consider nominal debasement of the US dollar. And by the way, if you're somebody that already doesn't gamble, good. That's good for you. all these dollar amounts still apply to whatever's in your life. If you're spending $5 a week on Starbucks coffee, right? It's the same math at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you're spending this $5 on a coffee or if you're spending it on a lottery ticket, right? If you're spending $100 a week, right? Everything we're going to be talking about here is the opportunity cost of that money. So let's get into the fun part, the returns. Your returns on savings, assuming a 10% chance Bitcoin goes to literal zero at $1 a week in 21 years at a 29% CAGR is $71,000. Whoa. Whoa, that's real money, right? Oh, I'm too late to Bitcoin. Oh, Bitcoin's 100 grand. I missed out. No, buy $1 a week and wait 20 years. Thank me later. Okay, that's how early you are to Bitcoin, even with the growth rate, barely half of what it's been historically in the last 4 years alone, right? Even assuming there's a 10% chance it goes to literal zero over the course of the next 21 years, right? Even assuming those things, and just $1 a week, that is still nearly $72,000 in 20 years or so, right? Now, let's say you're going to put in $5 a week. You're going to forgo one Starbucks coffee a week. Oh my goodness, we're looking at $250,000, assuming a 10% chance Bitcoin goes to zero, which I don't think personally there is. A $1 million level is crossed with $15 a week, okay? 7.1 million if you're going to do $100 a week, right? Like, this gets really exciting really quickly. It's something I think a lot of people have not really internalized. They think they're too late to Bitcoin, so they get pessimistic or they get negative. But if you just buy $100 a week consistently over 21 years, you're going to end up probably as a multi-millionaire, even if this compound growth rate is a little too pessimistic, right? I'm assuming 29%. Even if it's lower than that, the difference between 7 million down to 1 million, it's like, even if what I'm saying here, even if Bitcoin only has a 50% chance of surviving, right? That's still in your favor. You're still probably going to be a millionaire if we assume a 50% chance it goes to zero, which again, I don't think it's going to. But again, if you're spending consistently on lottery tickets, why not spend it on Bitcoin instead, right? If you are somebody watching this, probably more likely, that's spending money on random meme coins, I'm going to throw $100 into this meme coin and that meme coin or whatever, right? Because I want to get some extra. Okay, you understand what you're doing? You're doing the same thing as these lottery tickets, right? Every $100 you're putting into Bitcoin consistently matters. Every hour you're working matters. Nothing in life is free, and therefore everything matters in your life. And so if you're somebody watching this and you're enjoying this video so far, please, please, please subscribe. All right, please subscribe if you've not done so already. Share this video with somebody that needs to hear this message that you are not too late to Bitcoin, okay? And if you're somebody that is new to Bitcoin, okay, text me get off zero at the phone number on the screen here, and I will send you that first amount of Bitcoin, right? So text the phone number on the screen if you are somebody that is new to Bitcoin, or if you need help with Bitcoin self-custody, or if you want to buy 1 hour of Luke's time, if you want to buy some of my time, if you need help taking Bitcoin self-custody, or if you're new to Bitcoin, or you're looking to increase your Bitcoin stack in any way, feel free to reach out to me, share me your name, share me how I can get a hold of you, and share me what your questions are. I will personally send you free Bitcoin. Yes, this is an ad. Yes, I'm promoting myself, right? You definitely should talk to some Bitcoin person, even if that's not me, right? But my point is that I'm trying to emphasize you are not too late to Bitcoin. You have the opportunity right now. You got to take this stuff very seriously. Your number one mistake is that, if anything, you are too bearish. You are too conservative when it comes to your Bitcoin allocation, okay? A lot of us have not actually realized, oh my goodness, we have more in common with the Bitcoin stackers from 2011 than we do with the Bitcoin stackers in 2045. Literally every single dollar matters. Just $1 a week could make you an entire salary's worth of money. Granted, you have to wait a while, but this is what we're looking at, okay? You're taking your Bitcoin savings, odds of survival rate 90%, you're looking at tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions or multiple millions of dollars with very moderate, very achievable amounts of savings per week. Again, give me a text. You saw that phone number on the screen. Okay, reach out if you need help literally buying your first dollar worth of Bitcoin. A DCA is a great way to do that. You could set up a DCA where you buy consistently. For me, I buy $1 of Bitcoin every hour. Okay, I buy $1 worth of Bitcoin every single hour, right? And I mostly do that just to emphasize it is super easy to DCA. I dollar cost average into Bitcoin entirely passively. I don't even think about it, right? Obviously, I lump sum when I can, but I dollar cost average every single hour, $1 of Bitcoin. And I'm probably going to be rewarded very, very, very well for that over the course of the next 20 years, because even just $1 a week, $52 a year, consistently over the course of time is going to be a very, very significant amount of time. Right now, maybe this is $1 a week every month. Maybe you do $52 a month, right? And maybe you get these numbers, right? Or you could do it a year, but whatever the case, it's a very small amount of money that is going to be turning into a much, much larger amount of money. In fact, what I'm going to do here really quickly, just because it is that unbelievable, I think I should probably add some math to all this. Okay, here's the math, okay? If you start with nothing, okay, because I know people aren't going to believe me in the comments, like it's as unbelievable, saying it, even though I checked the math, right? If you start with nothing, after 21 years, at a compounded rate of 29%, where it's compounding continuously because Bitcoin's 24/7, and you're adding $4 a week, which is $4.3 a month on average, right? You're doing that and you calculate it, you get to this absurd amount where you're ending up with, $77,000. And so again, plug in a 90% odds of survival and a 10% odds of going to zero. It's like I know what I'm saying sounds crazy, but literally every single dollar into Bitcoin matters, and you aren't bullish enough. So with all that said, let's get back to the lottery tickets and your real cost, because your real cost with the lottery tickets is not the tangible loss, right? It's not the tangible loss. If you're spending $1 a week, you're gambling away $1 a week on lottery tickets, you're going to lose $360 over the course of those 21 years, right? Which is about 33% of the total amount you can be spending on those lottery tickets. If you're spending $100 a week or $5,200 a year, you're going to probably lose $36,000 over the course of those 21 years in tangible cost, assuming you pay no taxes and assuming you don't reinvest your gambling, quote unquote, profits back into more tickets, right? But the real cost, over 99% of the cost of gambling and lottery tickets, or buying that Starbucks coffee, or buying that stupid meme coin that you probably shouldn't be buying, the real cost is not the tangible loss of those funds. The real cost is the opportunity cost that you're sacrificing. If you are gambling $5,000 a year into stupid meme coins, right, you're probably gonna, assuming you're gonna lose a third of your money, right, you're probably gonna lose $36,000. But the real cost is that if you would just put that in Bitcoin, you'll be buying back so many hours of time and stress, and you will probably end up with literally millions of dollars, even if I'm correct or incorrect and off by a factor of 2 or 3 or 5. Like, the math is just incredible. If you take a reasonable amount of time, 20 years for a lot of people seems like forever, but if we're looking at an actual long-term time horizon, 20 years is not actually that long. That is half of a career. Most people save for their retirement over the course of 40 years. And so if you're like me, or you're in your 20s, or you're in your 30s, heck, even if you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, right, 21 years is a very long time. Maybe you're in your 60s or 70s and you feel like you're too late because now you're in retirement age. And I understand why you feel that way. But would you rather be 85 years old and have $7 million or not have $7 million? Okay. A few bucks a week, $20 a week, or $100 a week, it's not that big of a sacrifice. And how good would it feel in 5, 10, or 20 years to know that even if it's not for you, your kids or your grandkids are going to have such a higher standard of living because you worked for them, right? My grandfather went to work at Walmart as a Walmart greeter for the last 8 to 10 years of my life to save up money for me. This is when I was an early teenager. He passed away and he was 91, I believe. And he worked super, super hard those last few decades to save up money for me. Obviously, he wasn't a Bitcoiner, but this was before even I had heard about Bitcoin or knew about Bitcoin. But my point is that even no matter what your age is, if you're a 10-year-old kid, if you're a 20-year-old kid, right? It's like you have the ability to make $15 a week. Like, don't give me some stupid excuse that you don't have 15 bucks a week to spend, right? It's like you can be a 15-year-old kid and make 15 bucks a week, put your allowance money in. Instead of lottery tickets, put it into long-term asset preservation in the apex property, the human race, which is Bitcoin. And you're going to probably end up with a massive amount of money, right? You know, this is my point. You're not too late to Bitcoin. And the whole mindset behind people gambling in lottery tickets or whatever meme tokens they have, because let's be honest, for most of you watching this, your lottery ticket of choice is probably, you know, number 500 on CoinMarketCap, right? That's probably your lottery ticket of choice. The point is, you are so early to Bitcoin. The risk is almost entirely on the possibility of intangible loss of opportunity cost and not the tangible loss of the actual funds themselves that you lost. Now, in short, every single lottery ticket you avoid buying is 131 bucks in 21 years. Okay. You want to hack the lottery? You want to make a crap ton of money in the lottery? Imagine every single time you buy a $2 lottery ticket, you make 131 bucks. That's a pretty good deal, right? What's the catch? The catch is you got to wait 21 years. If you can manage to wait 21 years instead of having a 1 in half a million shot of winning a couple million bucks in fiat before taxes, you have an over 90% chance of getting $150. So including the 10% chance of Bitcoin failing, $131, right? It's like, which would you rather take? Obviously, even though the potential payout of Bitcoin per $2 invested is literally, you know, 1,000,000 times lower, right? 100 million times lower than winning the lottery, because the odds are 1,000,000 times higher, it's still the more logical bet, even if you assume you actually have a chance of winning the lottery, and even if you assume Bitcoin actually has a chance of failing. This is my point. Think through familiar and unfamiliar risks, tangible and intangible costs. Highly encourage you to do that. Now, speaking of intangible costs and benefits, there's something I want to go through here really quickly. It'll just take a minute. That is Prague 2025. This is an event coming up I'm super excited for. This is going to have a tangible cost. It's going to cost you a couple grand. This event is not for everyone. This is a very special, small, intimate retreat. The mega conference in Prague is going to have 8,000 attendees in Bitcoin. But what I'm promoting here is a special side event that I personally am hosting with roughly a dozen other high-quality Bitcoiners that we would love to have you come, hang out, make new friends in Bitcoin. You are going to meet some of the speakers of the Bitcoin Prague event in an event even more intimate than the VIP tickets for the Prague event. There are going to be private chefs, private tours, intimate group of 10 to 15 people. Your logistics are covered. And if you get a VIP ticket, you will likely have a chance to meet Michael Saylor, Adam Back, Jack Mallers, and dozens of other speakers, as well, of course, of hanging out with about a dozen other Bitcoiners. So this is a rare opportunity. You don't have to travel alone. I'm going to Prague. It's probably a new country for many of you. It is going to have a tangible cost. Obviously, you got to spend some money to go, right? You got to chip in, obviously. But if you have any interest in sacrificing some of your tangible Bitcoin for the intangible education, learning, benefit, friendships, and networking of this event, text the phone number on the screen, your name, email, questions, interest. Would love to have you join. This event is first come, first serve. Very intimate group of 10 or so people. Already, multiple of these spots are already claimed. So there's, you know, a few spots remaining, just over half of the spots are remaining. Everyone that's coming, I'm vetting and verifying. So again, everything in life has an intangible and a tangible cost. Consider it with everything, including which Bitcoin events you go to. Personally, I think spending $2,000 to $3,000 on this intimate kind of Bitcoin retreat is well worth it over spending a ticket of 5 to 15 grand on some big conference in some big city in some conference room, right? I mean, for goodness sakes, look at those pictures. That place is absolutely beautiful, right? It's going to cost you less money, and I think you're going to get way more intangible benefits. So if you have any interest in that, it's probably one of your last chances that I'm going to be talking about that, because, of course, 10 tickets goes really quickly, especially when I'm pricing them pretty competitively. But anyway, getting back to the lotteries, you have a tangible, real odds of making $100 for every single lottery ticket you buy if you just have the discipline to wait 21 years. That is all it takes. So please subscribe, and thank you for watching this video. But I want to get to a second part of this video, okay? We've been talking about the monetary benefit, and I appreciate you watching, and I hope you subscribe, but I really want to talk about the human benefit, because I think this is where we go to a next level. And this whole lottery ticket meme coin debate is no longer about which one makes you more money. It's no longer about how early are you to Bitcoin. It's about why are you actually here in the first place, okay? Imagine $27 billion is being donated from US taxpayers to the American government, okay? I'm an American. I love America. I want to see America survive. I want to see it thrive. However, funding America with toxic capital, toxic political currency directly leads to suffering and death across the world. And if we're looking at the next 21 years, $1 trillion are going to be donated to US government officials from people that are gambling their savings away instead of saving it in Bitcoin. So even if you aren't convinced to forego lottery tickets to buy Bitcoin from the logic and from reason and from math and from an economic incentive, do it for the sake of the women and children across the world. Do it for the sake of the security of the United States. Do it for the sake of communicating to the world, to yourself, to your family, and to your government. Hey, I don't support this fiat charade. I don't want to fund this. I am sick and tired of this kind of mindset infecting the American psyche since 1971. I don't want to see that anymore. I want to defund it. This is one of the easiest ways you could defund the US government. This is an actual tangible way you have real control to shrink the income of the US government, right? This is something you can do. When you are buying lottery tickets, it is not only a matter of economics and incentive, it is a matter of principle and, in my opinion, morality, okay? For me, I'm a Christian, and I made this little image here of Jesus holding a lottery ticket, and I find it pretty absurd. I do not think Jesus would ever buy a lottery ticket because I do not think Jesus needs a lottery ticket. The maker of the universe, the creator of every atom in your body, does not need to gamble on 6 random numbers to win some more political currency that some government official prints out of thin air, right? The same, your maker, your creator, doesn't need to gamble in order to make money, right? Bible is very clear on this. A faithful man will abound with blessings, but whoever hastens to be rich will not go unpunished. Everyone that hastens to be rich via degenerate meme coins, via degenerate leverage, or via degenerate lottery tickets is going to be punished. Maybe they will be punished in losing money. Maybe they will be punished in making money, but accepting a lot of stress. Maybe they will be punished in making money, not being stressed, but not knowing how to manage that money, and then somebody takes that money from them in the future, right? Whatever it is, I do believe, whether it's in a financial punishment or a spiritual punishment or emotional punishment, whatever it is, everything in life has a cost. Nothing is free. And if you hasten to be rich, there is a trade-off to that, and those trade-offs do not come for free. Another great verse is to keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. Likewise, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous, right? The wealth of the person that is buying the lottery tickets is laid up for the person that is sustainable over time. If you are buying a bunch of lottery tickets and you're just pumping money in the system, I'm going to be the one that eventually takes your money because I'm the one that owns the Bitcoin, because I'm buying $1 Bitcoin every single hour. And you aren't buying $1 Bitcoin a week because you're throwing it away to the government every time you spend $3 on a lottery ticket, right? And likewise, in the same way, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. It does not matter your age. Again, if we go all the way back, even if you're in your 50s or 60s or 70s, if you're just saving $1 or a few dozen dollars a week into Bitcoin, that is a significant savings, right? Again, I'm in middle age, I'm too late to Bitcoin. No, you're not. You may be too late to enjoy it in your retirement, but you're definitely not too late to enjoy the peace of mind knowing that your children are going to benefit from the work that you put in, right? A good man leaves inheritance to his children's children. Likewise, better what the eye sees than the roving of the appetite. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. At the heart of all these verses, and what I'm trying to get at here is that your gambling addiction is pride. If you are gambling in degenerate meme coins, stupid, tiny little, penny stocks or crypto tokens that are just, flirting around as they're trending down to zero, right? If you are gambling, this is no longer a question about which is going to help you make more money. It's a question about which is going to help you make more Bitcoin, which is supreme money. And most importantly, it's a question of what's going on in your heart. If you feel like that you are not going to be rewarded for being consistent and diligent and saving over a long period of time, if you feel that way and you feel that you have to leave your future up to luck, you don't have enough faith. You have little faith, don't have enough hope in your maker, in your creator, that if you put in the work, that you are going to be rewarded. Maybe you'll be rewarded in financial rewards, but even if you don't, even if you live your whole life suffering and being rebuked by this world, you are going to be rewarded by your maker for being someone that was ethical, for someone that was moral, and for someone that respected God's authority instead of leaving your own life and your own authority to pure chance. The heart of gambling is pride. It is saying, I don't want to follow the order of the universe where I reap from what I sow. I want to, supersede. I want to divert the order of the universe. I want to go the fiat route and try to print money out of nothing. I want to try to say, let there be light on my own. And I want to say, I want to manifest energy out of nothing. And I think this right here is going to be the single greatest piece of returns of anything I've talked about so far. Even though you're probably going to make $7 million from Bitcoin if you forego $100 worth of wasteful, useless, degenerate scam, spending a week, whether that's from meme tokens or that's from lottery tickets, right? The biggest returns of all is not going to be the fiat returns in your Bitcoin. It's not even going to be the freedom that Bitcoin buys you. It's going to be from the peace of mind, knowing that I don't need to put my future, I don't need to entrust my future in six numbers on a piece of paper. I can entrust my future to my Lord and Savior. For me, that is worth way more than any amount of Bitcoin I could buy from foregoing lottery tickets. Let's give another example back to familiar and unfamiliar risks. It's the same thing with greed. People in Bitcoin are so quick to say, oh, the central bankers are so bad. The central bankers are so greedy. The central bankers are so evil. And the Fed, blah, blah, blah. Don't you love it when Jesus turned over the tables of the money changers in the temple? Oh, yeah, go Jesus. That's so great. Good for you. Blah, blah, blah. But yet we are so easy to overlook the times where greed infests our own life, where we want to ignore the fact that our own greed is destroying our portfolios, is destroying our monetary future, and is destroying, or at least corroding, the kind of fortitude and character we have in the present moment, right? Why is it that we are so quick to criticize the greed outside of our control and to criticize the speck in someone else's eye, but yet we will neglect the plank in our own eye? If you are somebody that is quote unquote into Bitcoin, because, I'm into Bitcoin because I want to take down the central banks, right? I want to flip over the money changers, right? But yet you are still somehow, for some reason, gambling in degenerate, luck-based tokens, whether it's lottery ticket tokens or it's meme coin tokens, right? You have to really ask yourself, what's going on inside of you? Are you actually using logic here? Are you actually using reason? Or is there something deeper going on here? I really, really deeply encourage you to do that. So we only have a few more slides at the end here. But again, getting back to the other risk, right? I think your main risk, if you're in Bitcoin/crypto, is that degeneracy and trying to gamble and get ahead of Bitcoin, right? That is probably going to really, really hurt you at some point in the future. But again, there's also this other kind of risk with Bitcoin and exchanges. Please, for goodness sakes, get your Bitcoin off exchanges. All the time I talk to people when I'm trying to educate people on the trade-offs of multi-sig versus single-sig. Oh, I'm scared of multi-sig because there are all these risks with multi-sig. And I try to explain to people whatever risks you think there are with multi-jurisdictional escrow-compatible Bitcoin multi-sig, the risks that you have with single-sig are 10 times higher than the risk with the multi-sig. And the risk of you having your Bitcoin on exchanges is 50 times higher than having it in the single-sig, right? So for goodness sakes, I'm going to say it again, text the phone number on the screen if you need any kind of help with Bitcoin self-custody or to discuss the different kinds of risks that you may potentially be harboring within your Bitcoin portfolio. Please do not delay on this. Okay, this is a limited time offer. Why? Because I can't help 2,000 people and there are 40,000 people that follow me, right? I'm not going to be the only person out there helping people, but it's like, you're probably going to need somebody at some point to help you. Like, do it now because everybody else is procrastinating this because nobody else is thinking critically about the kinds of risks they're facing. Your biggest risk with Bitcoin on exchanges is not the probability of governments taking your money, even though they probably will take your money at some point in time, even though it's probably not going to be for a while. But your biggest risk is the probability of somebody just stealing your coins, just casually stealing your coins from the exchange. It's very, very difficult to get them back, and it's more likely than not irreversible. So that is my strong encouragement, okay? Reflect on your own heart. If you are being greedy, if you are in lottery tickets, if you are in meme coins, you have to really consider, why am I doing that? If you have your Bitcoin on exchanges, to be extremely frank, you are probably lazy. You are probably neglecting something which you should not be neglecting, right? I've heard it, I need to take self-custody, and you still aren't. Why? Because you have not faced the truth. And the truth is you're being incredibly high risk. You are not being logical. You are texting and driving, and you're screaming about a little mouse in your shed. It is not logical at all. Your Bitcoin on exchanges has all of the risks of Bitcoin. You are accepting all of the risks, as small as they might be, of Bitcoin collapsing and going to zero. I think it's basically no risk, a very, very tiny risk. But you are still accepting all of the risks of someone stealing your Bitcoin, of you making a mistake with your Bitcoin, of somebody else taking your Bitcoin. You have all the risks of Bitcoin plus all of the risks of fiat. You have your Bitcoin on exchange, but you're buying Bitcoin because you think there could be a bank run someday. That's illogical. You're being nonsensical. You have literally no extra benefit for all of the extra risk. If you have your Bitcoin in this limbo land sitting on an exchange, you're accepting all of the risk of the traditional political currency fiat system, all of the familiar risks, plus all of the unfamiliar risks. And your fear and your paranoia is preventing you from taking action, from taking the next step. So again, take the next step. Talk to somebody. Reach out to me. I've talked to thousands, or not thousands, but 1,000 people in Bitcoin that have gone through very, very similar, if not the exact same situations you've gone through, okay? I'm telling you, the best tangible way for you to take action and to get over this hump of discomfort and this hump of being paranoid about taking your Bitcoin self-custody seriously, the best action is to talk to another person. Talk to a person, have a conversation. You've been watching YouTube videos relentlessly and you've still not done anything. You know this is what you need to do. Please do it now. Take it seriously, okay? Familiar risks, unfamiliar risks. That's the big picture with this video. It is safer to be in a room with a spider next to Chernobyl, holding Bitcoin, than it is to be smoking a cigarette while texting and driving, looking at your little Coinbase portfolio with a couple Bitcoin on it, having a Mega Millions lottery ticket on your dashboard, right? Just because some risks feel scary does not mean on a statistical level they should be scary, right? Likewise, when it comes to your Bitcoin self-custody, you have to think about your risks. You could have the unfamiliar risk of, having somebody, of paying somebody, right? You could have that risk, or you have all kinds of familiar risks that you are currently accepting with your Bitcoin self-custody setup. Opportunity cost, custody risk, tax risk, legal risk, right? Let's say there's a 2% chance of somebody $5 wrench attacking you as Bitcoin does its next 10x, right? Let's say there's a 10% chance somebody steals your Bitcoin. If you still have your Bitcoin on exchanges, right? My average client at the Bitcoin Advisor increases their stack by 51.2%. If you aren't a part of my team, obviously, then we will literally help you increase your stack 0% because you're not using us, right? Let's say there's a 15% chance you or your spouse has a custody failure upon your passing, right? Let's say there's another additional possibility. Your loved ones lose about 10% of your Bitcoin stack upon your passing. Let's say you don't prepare against the estate tax, which is 40%, and let's say there's a 1 in 20% chance somebody sues you, right? You can pick your own percentages. My point is that nothing in life is free. If you do nothing, what is your inaction going to cost you? What is that opportunity cost going to cost you? And likewise, if you hire somebody, what is that going to cost you? I think if you actually run the numbers and you actually think things through, it is going to be significantly cheaper than you think. And so this is something I've been working on for a long time. This is a table of 63 different kinds of risk I have identified for various kinds of Bitcoin custody methods, for a total of 20 different options for custody methods, which means there's a total amount of about 12 to 1,300 different kinds of ways at which Bitcoin could be lost in different kinds of attack, right? And this is not universal, right? This is totally dependent on your age, your technological capacity, how much Bitcoin you own, right? Where you are in the world, right? This is a customizable sheet that you can use for your own individual circumstance to determine what is the lowest risk custody setup for me. It's pretty nerdy. It's pretty technical. My point is, I obsess about this. I obsess about this every day for myself, along with my team of 40 people at Bitcoin Advisor, and for the hundreds of clients that we have. This is our obsession. Reduce risk, increase Bitcoin stack, help you hold onto your Bitcoin so you don't lose half of it over the course of the next decade. And my point is, consistently, I am telling you, you should strongly take action as soon as possible, because this actually is relatively urgent. We are rapidly approaching a period of time where Bitcoin is being stacked by the nation states. You do not get to go through the hyper-Bitcoinization of the world without yourself becoming a hyper target of the world. You want to destroy the central bank? Congratulations. You are the new central bank. You want to destroy the honeypot that is the US dollar? Congratulations. Your tiny little stack of 2 Bitcoin or 0.2 Bitcoin or 20 Bitcoin or whatever it is, as tiny as it might feel to you, it's not tiny. Most people in the world would never have 100,000 Satoshis. You have dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands or tens of thousands of times more Satoshis than most people will ever have. You have to minimize your risks seriously. So do not make fun of the people that are buying lottery tickets. Do not make fun of the people that are buying the meme coins. All of us, every single one of us, has tangible and intangible risks in our life right now. Every single one of us has a different kind of opportunity and a different kind of cost. If you want to have a conversation, you want to talk to me, we can go through your specific scenario and in a cheerful and constructive way, think through different ways in which we're able to help you minimize risk and ultimately help you increase your Bitcoin stack. I'm more than happy to have that conversation because guess what? The fastest way for you to justify buying more Bitcoin is to reduce your risk in the first place. If you reduce the downside risk, you increase the amount of allocation you're able to take to Bitcoin, and like that's the fastest way that you can get more Bitcoin. So I hope this conversation has been useful to you. My big encouragement to wrap everything up is this whole lottery ticket thing. It's like, don't believe the lie. Don't believe the fiat lie that you have to throw away some money every week in order to have the chance of having a better future. That is pride. That is, in my opinion, immoral. That is wasteful, and you are squandering your wealth and your children's inheritance. Maybe not tangibly, but intangibly, you definitely are. So don't buy lottery tickets. Don't be trading. Don't be degenerate. Don't get into the meme coins. Take your self-custody seriously. Get off the freaking exchanges because you don't even understand what your biggest risks are. Take these things seriously because the opportunity is so exciting in front of us. You can make millions of dollars just from the smallest little dollar cost averaging amount, right? So take it super seriously. And the great thing is that if you take this seriously, and if you take my loving encouragement to hit you over the head and get you incentivized to do this, like if you actually do the work and you lock yourself down and secure it, that's where the fun begins. But most of you, all of us, we all have risks in our life, and the whole goal is minimize those risks in your control. Hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you for watching, as always. Appreciate it.